My sister-in-law said I wasn't classy enough for her brother, so I let her see my real last name. I walked into the restaurant and felt like every eye slid over me. My dress was thrift store soft, clean, and chosen with care, but not the kind Camilla would like. She sat across from me with a glass of rose and a sharp mouth. When she smiled, it looked like a knife. Ethan introduced me slowly, like he was giving someone a rare thing to inspect. Camilla's laugh was small and sharp. "You're sweet," she said so everyone could hear, "but not exactly our level." The table went quiet. I felt the words like a push in my chest. My cheeks fought to be calm. I kept my voice even and small. I said thank you for dinner and tried to smile. But inside I burned with a steady, controlled heat. Ethan did not say anything at first. He sat and chewed on bread, looking away from my face. I watched his eyes move to his sister like he was waiting for permission to care. I held my fork and let the moment settle. People around us shifted in their chairs. Camilla kept talking, making jokes that landed like pebbles against the glass of my life. I wanted to shout, to tell her she had no idea who she spoke to. Instead, I folded the insult into my chest. I took out my phone, thumb steady, and saved the messages she would send later. If this was a hook, I thought, then she had just cast it into deep water. Hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. The car was quiet on the drive home. Ethan tried on the apology like a coat that did not fit. "Camilla just protects me," he said softly. "Don't take it personally." His voice sounded strained, like he had practiced gentleness and it kept sliding off him. I watched the city lights as they blinked by and listened to the hum of the tires. I wanted to tell him his words were weak. Instead I said, "It wasn't personal. It was calculated." He glanced at me and then away, surprised. He had not expected me to know the difference. I remember the way Camilla had leaned forward, her smile thin, the whole table joining in like a small pack. I remember the discomfort in Ethan's eyes when she spoke. I thought of all the times people used me as a joke at the edges of their lives. The car smelled like new leather and old excuses. Ethan reached over and touched my hand, but his fingers held back. My silence filled the space between us. He tried again. "I'll talk to her." I heard the promise and I let it fall away softly. I had learned to make no loud moves in the dark. Calculated things needed heavy quiet. If I showed anger now, it would be proof for them to keep using me. So I watched the street and counted the lights, planning little notes in my head. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a line I meant to follow. The group chat started like a small fire that spreads with a breeze. Camilla made it and she meant to keep it small and bright. She invited her friends and, by mistake, she added me. I held my phone and saw the messages pop up. They said things that tasted like vinegar. "She probably thinks Prada is a pasta," one wrote. "Did you see her shoes?" said another. They sent laughing faces and pictures of a sparkling purse I had never owned. I could have answered. I could have explained where my shoes came from or why my grandmother's stories mattered more than their money. But I did not. I took screenshots instead. I saved every line like proof in a jar. My fingers were calm. I had learned early not to burn bridges with shouting. I made a folder and saved the chat with a date, a paper trail, a memory. I opened my notes app and wrote the exact words Camilla used that night at dinner. I wrote them down because people forget the sting unless they keep records. I watched the group throw jokes and knives across an invisible table and I thought of all the times the rich say things and expect no one to answer. My silence was not weakness. It was a bet. If they wanted to build a story about me, I thought, then I would be the one to write the receipts. After all, the truth weighs more than a laugh. I closed the chat and breathed. This was the very sort of mistake that later becomes evidence. Camilla moved fast on wedding plans. She invited vendors I did not know and chose flowers I did not recognize. "We'll handle the classy details," she told me like a parent picking clothes for a child. I smiled and let her speak. I said yes to color palettes and to late-night calls about napkin folds. Inside, I was quiet and watching everything. Her friends called me darling and offered opinions about tablecloth texture. Ethan said nothing and let the sister lead. I kept my answers short. It was easier to be the bride who agreed than the bride who argued in rooms where money spoke loudest. I learned to walk through rooms where people decided my life by the brand on a label. But I was not only watching. I asked small questions and stored the answers. Who was paying which vendor? Which company handled catering? Who owned the rental dresses? Each little detail sat in my phone like a bead on a string. Camilla believed she was steering everything. She liked the illusion of power. I let her feel big. The more she led, the more she exposed. When she boasted about a photographer or a planner, she mentioned names and accounts and paid deposits. I wrote them down. Her voice told me everything about her network, her pride, her habits. The plan she made for a perfect day was the map she left. I would keep it. I smiled and let patience be my quiet weapon. I was learning the art of sitting in a corner and collecting pieces until the whole picture could be folded into my hands. The charity gala felt like stepping into a painting where every face had a frame. Camilla introduced me as Ethan's +1, like a borrowed scarf. I wore neutral colors and a dress my aunt had recommended. The room smelled of perfume and money. People with sharp shoes and soft voices floated across the hall. I moved slowly, letting conversations pass like boats. Then someone froze near the center, an older man with a coat that spoke of traveling and quiet power. He looked straight at me and his face changed like a tide. A woman by him whispered the question into his ear, and I heard the name, Isabella Moretti. From the Moretti group. For a second I thought my heart would stop. Camilla laughed loudly and said, "No, not those Morettas." She meant it as a small cut. My mouth wanted to answer and deny. Instead I let the silence work. I smiled faintly and said, "Actually, yes." The words fell like a small stone. The man's eyes widened and the room shifted. Camilla's laughter hit the ceiling and sounded thin. I excused myself politely and walked away to the balcony, breath fogging in the cold night. I watched her face through the glass, sudden paleness, an edge of fear. The name had been a seed. I felt the soil move. Inside, something was waking. I had never told them about the Moretti blood in my family. I had never wanted to use it like a weapon. But seeing the way she looked at me now, I knew the world had just become a little more interesting. I stayed on the balcony longer than needed, letting the cool air steady my breath. Through the glass, I saw Camilla pull Ethan aside, her face tight and pale. She kept glancing at me like I had turned into something she didn't recognize. When I walked back in, people watched me differently, not with judgment, but with quiet interest. A few whispered, and one woman stepped forward and asked softly, "Your family, the Moretti family?" I only smiled. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice calm. I walked past Camilla the same way she had walked past me at dinner, light, smooth, barely seeing her. But I saw the fear bloom in her eyes like a bruise. She grabbed my arm. "You could have said something earlier," she whispered sharply. "You never asked," I said. She tried to laugh, but her voice cracked. "Well, of course I wasn't judging." I looked at her and she stopped talking. I said nothing else. My silence worked better than any speech. Across the room, the older men from earlier kept watching me with respect, and that only made Camilla more shaken. She clung to Ethan's arm, asking questions he could not answer. I gave her a small nod and walked away again, this time slowly enough for her to feel the weight of my steps. She had planted the seed of humiliation earlier. Now she felt the first tremor of the ground shifting under her. If you're following this moment, hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. Things were only beginning. Later that night, I sat alone in my small apartment, lights off, mind wide awake. The gala kept replaying in my head, but not because of Camilla's shock. It was the name spoken aloud, Moretti. I hadn't heard it used that way in years, not since I was a child. I closed my eyes and remembered the flashback that always felt like a dream. My mother's soft voice, my father's laugh, the long hallways of a house I had only lived in for a short time. When they died, the world changed overnight. I was sent to my aunt, who raised me in a tiny place with peeling paint and warm hugs. My aunt told me to use her name, Marin. "People like the Morettas attract storms," she'd said. "Let your life be quiet for now." I kept that promise. I grew up with two different worlds tucked in my heart, one simple, one powerful. But I never chased the second. I stayed small on purpose. I learned to work, save, build slowly, and speak only when needed. No one knew the truth except a few people in Europe who still sent Christmas cards. So when the man at the gala recognized me, it pulled at a door I had locked. I wasn't ashamed of my roots. I just refused to use my name as a ladder. But tonight showed me something new. People like Camilla only understood ladders. They respected what they could measure. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if hiding had been a mistake, or if revealing the truth would open a storm I needed to face. By morning, the news had spread through the family faster than any truth should. I walked into Ethan's house and found Camilla whispering loudly to their mother. When they saw me, they went quiet so fast it was almost funny. Ethan pulled me aside, his voice low. Camilla thinks you lied about who you are. His tone wasn't angry, just confused. I looked at him, wondering how someone could be so gentle and so blind at the same time. I never lied, I said. I just didn't announce things. Camilla stood in the doorway, arms crossed. People don't hide important things unless there's something wrong with them. I didn't flinch. Or unless some people judge before they listen. She narrowed her eyes, but I could see fear flickering there. The kind that grows when someone realizes they may have insulted a person they can't afford to offend. I tried finding information about you, she said. There's nothing. No background. No family. No school records. I almost laughed. Privacy isn't the same as secrets. Ethan reached for my hand, but his sister's glare cut him in half. I just want to protect our family, she said again. Protect. That word tasted strange. Everything she did felt less like protection and more like territory marking. I met her gaze and held it. Then stop digging into my life, I said. You won't find anything you can use. Her face tightened. She wanted control. But for the first time, she didn't know where to place her hands. A week later, we went to a dress fitting Camilla had arranged. The room was bright and full of gowns that looked like floating clouds. Camilla walked through them like she was walking through her own private garden. Let's pick something classy, she said loudly, touching fabrics like she owned every inch. When I stepped out in a simple gown, she tilted her head. It's cute, but very budget. The stylist looked uncomfortable. I breathed slowly. Camilla didn't know that the owner of this label had been my friend since childhood, back when our families crossed paths in Milan. I had been texting him quietly all week. So when the stylist carried out a stunning custom dress, silk that moved like liquid light, Camilla gasped. Oh, that one is perfect, she squealed. It's so exclusive. Only VIP clients get these. I nodded. Do you like it? She clapped her hands. It's the classiest thing you've ever worn. I hid my smile. She admired every inch of it, not realizing I had designed it with my friend years ago as a sample piece for fun. The designer walked in at the end and nodded at me with a warm smile. You still have an eye for beauty, he said. Camilla didn't notice. She was too busy admiring the dress she thought belonged to her world. It never crossed her mind that it belonged to mine. A few days later, Camilla invited me to a girls' lunch. I should have known it wasn't just lunch. When I walked in, a society blogger was already seated, a recorder on the table. Camilla smiled too sweetly. I thought it would be nice to introduce you. The blogger leaned forward. Is it true you work as an assistant? Some people online said you're not in high-level work. Camilla smirked behind her glass of sparkling water. I kept my hands steady around my cup of tea. Every word they threw at me reminded me of the group chat, of the dress comments, of the gala humiliation. Yes, I said calmly. The blogger waited, pen ready. Camilla's grin grew. I continued, but I'm the assistant to myself. Camilla blinked. What? I folded my napkin neatly. I own the company. The blogger froze. Camilla laughed like she was choking. Your company? Yes, I said. 5 brands. All under one umbrella. The blogger scrambled for her phone. Camilla's face drained as she tried to understand. She had planned an ambush. She had set the table. But she hadn't prepared for me to flip it over gently and walk away with the silverware. I stood and placed a tip on the table. Thank you for lunch, I said. Camilla didn't speak. Her silence tasted better than dessert. Camilla grew jumpy after the lunch disaster. She watched me in a strange, twitchy way, like she was trying to see something she had missed. She sent messages full of fake sweetness. She brought me tiny gifts I never asked for. And she kept whispering with Ethan's mother behind half-closed doors. I knew the signs of panic when I saw them. I had seen rich people get scared before, not of danger, but of losing status. Then the strangest thing happened. We were at a hotel lobby waiting for valet service, and she overheard two workers whisper. "Miss Marin tipped $5,000 for the staff fund last month," one said. "No one does that." Camilla's head turned so fast I thought her neck would snap. "5,000, she repeated, trying to keep her voice light. I only shrugged. It was holiday week. They work hard. She stared at me like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. That night I could almost feel her searching the internet with desperate fingers. But she found nothing. The Marin identity was too clean, too quiet, too separate from the Moretti world. And the less she found, the more she grew afraid of what she didn't know. Camilla was used to mocking people beneath her. She had never learned what to do when the ground shifted, and she didn't know how deep the floor went. She wanted to corner me again, but I saw hesitation in her eyes now. Fear had begun its quiet work. The bachelorette party was the moment everything tore wide open. Camilla booked an exclusive club and told everyone it would be classy and elegant. When we arrived, the music was loud, and lights flashed in the dark like sharp teeth. Camilla handed me a silly apron with glitter words and said loudly, "You can help serve drinks tonight. For fun." The girls laughed, not with me, but at me. I felt the heat rise in my chest. I should have walked out then. But I stayed. I let her think she had control. Photos were taken, me carrying drinks, me holding trays, me laughing thinly to hide how it hurt. By morning, the pictures leaked online. Headlines formed fast: Gold Digger Bride, Social Climber Crashes High Society Party. Comments were worse. She looks cheap. What is she wearing? Not wife material. I sat on my couch shaking while my phone filled with alerts. Ethan tried defending me in a TV interview, but even his voice sounded unsure. "Isabella is wonderful," he said. "She means well." Means well. Like I was some lost puppy. My trust in him cracked straight down the center. For the first time, I wondered if he had been protecting me or protecting his family from me. My PR advisor, Carla, called and said, "We can fix this, but you need to decide when to show who you really are." I stared at the screen, at Camilla's smiling face in every leaked picture. "Not yet," I whispered. "Let them dig their own graves first." The fallout grew bigger each day. I stayed home, curtains closed, watching how quickly people believe lies. Every morning Carla sent me updates. "They're painting you as cheap," she said once. "But if you want to break that story, you can." I didn't. Not yet. Let the fire grow hotter. Let them think I was weak and small. Sometimes weakness is the perfect disguise. Ethan came by with flowers. He said, "You know my family can be intense." I looked at him. Intense. He forced a laugh. "They just want the best for me." I almost told him everything then, about the gala, the whispers, the man who knew my real name. But something inside me paused. I wanted to see where his loyalty went naturally, without being guided. That night, social media spun more stories. People who had mocked me before now laughed harder. Camilla posted a photo of herself sipping champagne with the caption, "Some people aren't built for our world." My hands trembled, but not from hurt, from the calm before a storm. I read an old text from my aunt, "Never fight a snake while it hides in grass. Let it show itself first." So I waited. Camilla kept posting. Her friends kept laughing. Ethan kept ignoring the sharp edges. And I kept still. Stillness is a powerful thing. It lets the enemy walk right into the open. A week later, Camilla suggested a peace dinner. I knew it wasn't peace. It was performance. But I went anyway. Their family's dining room was long and formal, the kind where voices echo. Everyone welcomed me with careful smiles. I sat beside Ethan, who squeezed my hand like we were teammates. But I knew we weren't. Not anymore. Halfway through the meal, Ethan's father cleared his throat. "Isabella," he said in a serious tone, "we're concerned about your career stability." Camilla pretended to be surprised. "Dad," she whispered, but she kept watching me with a tiny smile. I set down my fork. "What about it?" "Assistants don't usually have long-term security," he said. "And Ethan will take over our company soon. His partner must have standing." I breathed slowly. Then I looked straight at him. "I run 5 brands. Would you like quarterly reports? Silence. Forks paused. Even the candles seemed to flicker differently. Camilla's face turned sheet white. Ethan blinked fast, as if processing it for the first time. Their mother whispered, "You own companies?" "Yes," I said gently. "I like to keep things quiet." The tone at the table changed instantly. Questions came fast, too fast. What kind of brands? How big? How long? Their eyes did not show respect. They showed hunger. The kind that comes when people see opportunity where they once saw weakness. I kept my tone soft and let them wonder. I didn't need their approval. I only needed their attention. Late that night, after the peace dinner cracked open their curiosity, my phone buzzed with a call from Milan. My uncle's deep voice filled the room. "Isabella, we saw the press. Your mother would not like these people talking this way." I walked to the window, looking at the city lights. "It's fine. I can handle it." "You should not hide your name anymore," he said. "The family is ready for you to come back. The board wants you involved." My chest tightened. The Moretti Group wasn't just a company. It was a world. A world with shadows, expectations, old power, old rules. "Not yet," I whispered. "I want to earn things my own way first." He sighed. "You already have. But I understand." We talked about family matters, old memories, the way life had folded since my parents died. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the dark window. I still looked like the girl who grew up in my aunt's tiny apartment. The girl who shopped secondhand. The girl who saved every dollar. But something inside me had shifted at the gala. And shifted again at the dinner table. The world was pushing me toward a truth I had been avoiding. My name was a door. A heavy one. And soon, I knew I would have to open it again, not for vanity, but for justice. The storm was coming. And this time, I wouldn't hide from it. 2 days after the call from Milan, Camilla struck again, but this time she aimed for something she thought was fragile, my engagement ring. A rumor leaked online claiming the ring was fake. Someone posted zoomed-in photos, pointing at reflections, saying the stone looked too clear to be real. Comments piled up fast, "Cheap ring for a cheap bride." Ethan deserves someone with real class. Camilla didn't say she started the rumor, but the grin on her face told the truth. Ethan confronted me later. "Did you know your ring is being talked about?" I nodded. He swallowed. "It's silly. But you should explain where it came from." I watched him, wondering why he cared about strangers more than me. When he left the room, I made one call, to the jeweler who had made it. "Is it time?" he asked. "Yes," I whispered. The next morning, a viral post hit every major platform, custom ring designed by Isabella Moretti. Estimated value, $2.8 million. It included design sketches with my early initials on the corner. The internet flipped. Fans cheered. Critics choked. Influencers apologized. Camilla froze when she saw it. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped her phone. "You designed it?" Ethan asked, confused. "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him softly. Because it didn't matter, until people decided it did. The truth didn't just clear my name. It blew a hole straight through Camilla's story. And now she knew I wasn't someone she could measure or mock. I was someone she didn't understand at all. That afternoon, Ethan stormed into his sister's house, and I followed behind him quietly. I didn't speak, I just watched. "Did you spread the rumor about her ring?" he demanded. Camilla crossed her arms but avoided his eyes. People were already talking. "I just confirmed some things." "Confirmed lies," he snapped. She glared at him. "You're blinded by her." "No," he said. "But you should know something." Camilla lifted her chin. "What?" Ethan took a breath like he was about to break something. "Dad's company is funded by the Moretti Group. Their contracts keep us alive. And Isabella, her family, owns all of that." Camilla stopped breathing. I saw it in her eyes. Her face drained of color. "What do you mean, owns?" Ethan turned, frustrated. "Do you think we get those shipping deals because Dad is special? They were gifts. From her family. Because they respected her parents." Camilla's lips trembled. She looked at me again, this time not with hate, but fear. "Why didn't you say anything?" she whispered. I shrugged slightly. "Why would I? You didn't treat me like someone who deserved honesty. Her breath shook. She suddenly understood how deeply she had misplayed everything. In one moment, the balance shifted. She had mocked me, belittled me, used me as a toy to boost her own shine. And now she saw the truth. The ground she stood on had been paid for by the very woman she tried to crush. Her voice came out tiny. Ethan, what have we done? He didn't answer. He just walked out. And I followed, leaving Camilla in the quiet ruin of her own choices. The next morning, the whole family acted different. Ethan's father called me 3 times. His mother sent long messages about misunderstandings and family unity. And Camilla kept trying to schedule a reset lunch. None of them cared about me. They cared about the contract renewal coming up in 2 months, one that Harlington Imports desperately needed. They knew the Moretti Group could choose dozens of other partners. I met Ethan for coffee to talk things through. He seemed tired, older somehow. I didn't know, he said softly. About your family. About anything. I sipped my drink. You didn't ask. He sighed. I thought keeping the peace meant being quiet. No, I said gently. Keeping the peace means standing up when something's wrong. You didn't. He winced. Camilla walked into the cafe then, pretending it was a coincidence. She wore a soft smile that didn't fit her face. Isabella, she said sweetly, can we talk? We are talking, I replied. Her smile cracked. I didn't understand who you were. You didn't want to, I said. For a moment, she looked honest, small, even. Are you going to ruin us? She whispered. I didn't answer. Fear worked better than threats. And I wanted her to sit with that fear. Because only then would she understand what it felt like to be treated as less. She needed to feel the shift, the moment when power changed hands and she couldn't grab it back. A week later, I disappeared. Not publicly, just from their world. No calls. No texts. No updates. Camilla bragged to her friend group that I had run away from the pressure. But I hadn't run. I was in Europe, stepping through the marble halls of Moretti headquarters in Milan. Board members greeted me with warm eyes and firmer handshakes. You're ready, one told me. Another said, it's time you step into your mother's place. I listened, absorbing every word. For years I'd lived under the Marin name, building my life without the weight of Moretti's shadows. But the girl who once hid to survive had grown into a woman who needed no hiding. My uncle spread documents across a long table. These, he said, are the future. And we want you to lead it. I read through brand proposals, expansions, new markets. A whole empire waiting. But the moment that hit hardest was when I saw a contract labeled Harlington Imports. Their renewal was scheduled in 2 months. And I, only I, had final approval. Not the board. Not my uncle. Me. You don't have to decide now, my uncle said. But he watched me with knowing eyes. I thought of Camilla's insults. The bachelorette photos. The smirks. The lies. The ring rumor. The humiliation she fed like candy to the world. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here to build a future. But sometimes futures required cleaning out rot. And some lessons needed to be learned the hard way. One bright morning in Milan, the world found out what I had been doing. Headlines spread like wildfire. Moretti Group appoints new co-CEO, Isabella Moretti. Photos of me in the boardroom. Interviews from executives praising my intelligence, my calm, my leadership. The internet exploded. People who once mocked me now wrote, OMG, I always knew she was classy. Camilla's phone must have melted. Ethan tried calling me 6 times. I didn't answer. I sat in my hotel room watching everything unfold. Carla called screaming with joy. Do you understand what this means? She said. You just became one of the most powerful women in luxury goods. Notifications flooded my screen, news articles, partnership offers, messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. And somewhere in the middle of the noise came a simple text from Ethan, I'm proud of you. Please come home. But home wasn't where I left it. Home was what I was building now, with strength, not silence. I closed the curtains and let the room go dark. I thought about Camilla. About the family dinners. About the stares. About the laughter they shared when they thought I was nothing. Then I whispered to myself, this isn't revenge. This is truth. And the world finally saw me not as the quiet girl in a thrift store dress, but as who I had always been. When I returned home, the airport felt like a swarm of noise. Cameras flashed the moment I stepped through the glass doors. Reporters shouted questions. Isabella, are you taking over Moretti entirely? Is it true Harlington Imports depends on you now? I kept my face calm, walking through the crowd like I had practiced my whole life for this moment. Outside, my driver waited. As we pulled away, I saw something strange. Camilla standing near the sidewalk, waving too hard, smile too wide. Like a child trying to get the attention of a parent she once mocked. When I stepped out of the car, she hurried forward. "You're back," she chirped. "You should have told us everything." I studied her. This version of her, the sugary one, was worse than the cruel one. "Would it have changed how you treated me?" I asked softly. She froze, her smile slipping. Ethan walked out next, quieter than usual. "Isabella, congratulations," he said, and he meant it. But there was fear behind his eyes now, a new distance. I didn't hug him. Not yet. Inside the house, their mother rushed to hug me. Their father shook my hand with stiff respect. The shift in tone would have been funny if it wasn't so predictable. Power did that to people. It peeled off their real faces. I sat on the couch, let them talk, let them pretend. Camilla brought tea and compliments and little lies meant to smooth everything over. But I wasn't fooled. Their warmth was not love. Their warmth was survival. And I had learned to recognize the difference. A week later, their family invited me to dinner at their mansion, another fresh start, as they called it. When I arrived, everything looked staged. Fresh flowers, silky table settings, soft music playing, like they hoped ambience could erase history. Ethan greeted me with a quiet smile, but Camilla nearly tripped rushing to take my coat. "We're so glad you're here," she said, voice sugary enough to rot teeth. Their father toasted to new beginnings. Their mother asked if I wanted to join the family charity committees. I watched them, letting silence fill the cracks between their words. They wanted my power, not my presence, not my heart. The dinner tasted like a performance, every bite smooth, every sentence polished. I answered politely, but my mind wasn't in the room. I was thinking about the contract renewal, about the board meeting, about what choosing yes or no would mean for all of them. Camilla leaned close at one point. "We're family now," she whispered. "Things will be better." I looked at her slowly. "Things will be honest," I corrected. Her face fell. After dessert, I excused myself and stepped outside into the dark garden. The night air was clean, real, unlike the people inside. I knew that I couldn't trust their sudden kindness, and I knew I was done waiting for them to become decent on their own. They had chosen who they were long before I became powerful. Now I would choose who I would be. 2 weeks later came the day of the partnership renewal review at Moretti headquarters. I sat at the long polished table, documents neatly arranged. Across the ocean, Harlington Imports waited for an answer that could save or sink them. The meeting began with discussions about numbers, markets, shipments. Then came the final contract, Harlington's contract. My uncle glanced at me. "It is your decision," he said. "You know their history better than any of us." I nodded, flipping through the file. It wasn't just business. It was personal. But personal didn't mean petty. It meant clear, fair, firm. Later that evening, their family invited me to dinner again. They were nervous, watching every movement I made, waiting for clues. Halfway through the meal, their father raised his glass. "To family," he said shakily. I raised mine. "To business." Silence fell hard. Camilla swallowed loudly. Ethan looked down. Their father tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "So, the renewal, will it go well?" I didn't answer right away. I let the quiet stretch until it felt like weight on their shoulders. "We'll see," I said finally. "The board wants accountability." I saw panic spark in Camilla's eyes. She pushed her chair back. "Excuse me," she whispered, leaving the table. She knew something was coming, and for once, she couldn't control it. The power had shifted, and everyone in the room felt it. After dinner, I stepped into the hallway to get my coat, and Camilla followed me quickly, her heels clicking like tiny weapons. "You humiliated us," she hissed. "In front of my parents." I turned slowly. No, I said. You humiliated yourselves. I just stopped pretending not to notice. Her face twisted. You think you're better than us now? I shook my head. No. I was better long before now. I just finally decided to act like it. She looked like she wanted to scream but didn't dare. You're doing this to get revenge. I'm doing this, I said calmly, to show you the truth. You stepped on me because you thought I couldn't stand. Now you're learning what happens when someone you step on stands taller than you. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from anger. If our company fails, it's your fault. I stepped closer. No. It will be because your family depended on a name they didn't respect. She said nothing. Her breathing shook. You should think about how you treat people, I added. Especially the ones you think are beneath you. Camilla pressed her hand to the wall to steady herself. I saw the moment she realized her world had cracks she created with her own hands. I took my coat, walked past her, and left the house without looking back. For the first time, she wasn't the one with the upper hand. And she knew it. A few days later, Ethan came to my apartment. He stood in the doorway, clothes wrinkled, eyes sad. Can we talk? He asked softly. I let him in. He sat on the couch, elbows on his knees. I know my family hasn't been fair, he said. And I know I didn't protect you the way I should have. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I sat across from him. I don't want apologies, I said. I want understanding. He looked up, then helped me understand. I took a breath. Your family treated me like I was nothing for months. You watched it. You said nothing, even when you knew they were wrong. He swallowed. I thought keeping peace meant staying quiet. No, I said. Keeping peace means stopping people from hurting the person you claim to love. He closed his eyes. I want to fix things. I want us. I shook my head. Ethan, I don't need you to fix anything. I just need you to be someone who stands next to me, not behind your sister. He looked crushed. Is there a way back? I thought for a long moment. Then I said, you can work for it. Prove you're willing to stand on your own. I can offer you a consulting job. Fair pay. No favors. His eyes widened. You would? Hire me? No, I corrected gently. I would give you the chance to prove you can grow. It wasn't revenge. It was the beginning of something bigger, justice, with boundaries. The media storm spun into something new, something bigger than me, bigger than Camilla, bigger than the wedding drama that had started everything. Headlines now called me the hidden heiress, the secret Moretti, and the woman who outsmarted high society. I didn't like the attention, but I understood its power. Every interview request wanted the same story, the quiet girl who rose above the rich family who mocked her. I said no to all interviews. Silence kept my control sharp. Meanwhile, Camilla tried rewriting history. She gave shaky interviews online saying things like, Isabella and I have always been close, and we're practically sisters. People rewound her old posts and compared them with her new ones. The comments were brutal. Girl, weren't you just calling her cheap last week? The flip is insane. I didn't correct her lies. I didn't need to. Her desperation showed everything. Ethan kept working quietly. He took the consulting job seriously, asking questions, sending reports, showing effort. I respected that. But respect was not the same as trust. At dinners, people in high society whispered when I walked in. Some wanted to be close to me. Others feared I might ruin their families the way I was rumored to be ruining Harlington Imports. But I wasn't ruining anything. I was observing, watching, learning who came with open hands and who came with hidden knives. And in the middle of all that noise, an idea started forming. Not revenge. Not pettiness. Something bigger. Something clean. When the internal audit for Harlington Imports landed on my desk, I knew things were about to shift again. I spent an entire night reading through the numbers. At first everything looked normal, shipping totals, vendor lists, marketing budgets. But then I saw it, small charges added to business accounts. Clothing stores, spa visits, luxury makeup. Then larger ones, weekend trips labeled as client research, dinners at expensive restaurants marked stakeholder meetings. Every pattern pointed to the same person, Camilla. She had been using the company card for years, hiding her personal expenses behind business codes. At first, I felt shock, then calm. Not satisfaction, just clarity. I printed the files and called my uncle. "We need a joint meeting," I said. "Both companies present." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Very sure." He scheduled it for the next week. The next morning, I walked into Harlington's office building and saw Camilla near the elevator. She flashed a bright smile. "Isabella, you look lovely." I held back a reply. My silence made her uneasy. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "Not with me," I said. "But you should prepare for next week." Her face twitched. "Prepare for what?" "Accountability." She blinked fast, confused. "I don't understand." "You will," I replied. And I walked away, knowing she felt the ground crack under her feet again. This time, the cracks were real, written in numbers and ink. The joint board meeting was held in a tall glass room overlooking the city. Executives from both companies filled the long table. Camilla walked in wearing her best blazer, head high, confidence shining. She thought the meeting was about contract renewal. She had no idea it was about her. My uncle nodded to me. "You may begin." I stood and clicked the projector. The screen lit up with rows of highlighted transactions. "These," I said calmly, "are personal expenses charged to Harlington Imports over the last 3 years." Camilla frowned, confused. Then recognition hit her. Her posture collapsed an inch. "These charges," I continued, "include designer dresses, spa visits, personal flights, and luxury dinners." Gasps filled the room. I changed the slide, photos of receipts, her signature approving each one. "This is fraud," one board member whispered. "Misuse of company funds," another said. Camilla stood shaking. I didn't mean, everyone does it," Dad said. Her father covered his face. Her mother cried silently. She looked at me then, broken, furious, begging. "Please," she whispered. "Don't do this." I held her gaze. "Consider this your resignation." She sank into her chair. The room buzzed with shock and shame. I ended the meeting with one sentence: "The Moretti Group values integrity. That value will guide every decision we make." The board nodded. Camilla stared at the table, realizing she had played games her whole life until the day the game turned on her. The fallout hit fast. News stations reported the resignation before Camilla even left the building. Harlington executive steps down after fraud probe. Photos of her crying in the hallway went viral. People who once praised her now called her spoiled, entitled, careless. She stayed offline for 2 days before posting a shaky message begging for privacy. Ethan didn't defend her. He couldn't. Not when the truth sat in official files. He came to see me that evening. "I'm sorry for everything," he said quietly. "I didn't know what she was doing." "I know," I replied. "But knowing isn't the same as doing something." He nodded, eyes on the floor. "My family is ruined." "They're accountable," I corrected. "There's a difference." He swallowed hard. "How are you so calm?" "Because I didn't come for revenge," I said. "I came for respect. And I had earned it, by surviving, by staying steady, by letting truth speak louder than anger." That night, as I walked through the city, I saw news screens showing the meeting, highlighting my leadership. Commentators praised my professionalism. Not once did I smile. There was no joy in hurting someone, even someone who hurt me. But justice wasn't joy. It was balance. Camilla had taken so much, my peace, my pride, my safety. Now life had shown her the mirror she had avoided for years. And all she could see was herself. A few days later, Ethan knocked on my apartment door again. He looked tired, almost fragile. I stepped aside and let him in. "I wanted to talk," he began, voice soft. "I know you ended things quietly, but I want to try again." He moved closer. "I still love you." I felt my throat tighten, but not with emotion. With clarity. "Ethan," I said, choosing my words with care, "I forgive you. I always will." His eyes softened. "Then, but I can't forget," I continued. "You watched me get hurt. You watched your sister mock me. You watched the world attack me. And you said nothing until it affected you." His expression broke slowly. "I didn't know what to do," You could have stood beside me, I said. That was all I needed. Silence stretched between us like a thin glass bridge. He wiped his eyes. So this is it. This is us choosing different paths, I said softly. He nodded, defeated. I guess I really didn't deserve you. You deserve to learn, I replied. And now you have. He left quietly. No shouting. No slam of the door. Just the soft sound of acceptance. When it closed, I stood alone in my living room, breathing in the quiet. It hurt, but it was clean hurt. Honest hurt. And it opened space for something new. Something mine. After Ethan left my apartment, a strange lightness filled the room. Not joy, something quieter, steadier. A kind of clean air after a long storm. I poured tea, sat by the window, and watched cars move below like little pieces of life happening without me. For the first time in years, I had no weight pressing on my shoulders. No fear of judgment. No need to shrink myself to make others comfortable. My companies were growing fast, sales rising, press glowing, partnerships forming. But the best part wasn't the success. It was the freedom. I didn't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. I decided to use my voice and my money for something better. I launched a program for women who came from simple backgrounds like mine. Women who were mocked, underestimated, ignored. We gave them training, tools, and small grants to start jobs or businesses. At the announcement event, I spoke into the microphone with a steady voice. Class isn't money, I said. Class is how you treat people who cannot give you anything in return. The crowd clapped. Cameras flashed. And for the first time, I believed those words in my bones. This wasn't about revenge. Revenge burned fast and died. This was about growth. And I was finally tall enough to see my future clearly. When the event ended, Carla hugged me. You've changed, she said. No, I replied. I just stopped hiding. A year later, I hosted my own luxury charity gala. It was held in a shining hall full of marble floors and tall glass walls that reflected warm light. Every brand I owned had a display. Every partnership I cultivated had a spot on the floor. People arrived dressed in silver, gold, smooth fabrics, embroidered gowns. The press called it the event of the year. I walked down the entrance stairs slowly, wearing a gown I designed myself, nothing loud, just elegance in motion. When I reached the center of the room, something unexpected happened. Ethan and Camilla stood near the back, hesitant, unsure if they belonged. They looked smaller somehow, like their edges had softened. I didn't turn away. I walked toward them. Camilla swallowed hard. You really made it, she whispered. I smiled gently. I always had it in me. She looked ashamed. Ethan nodded respectfully. Congratulations, Isabella. Truly. I thanked him. There was no bitterness left in my chest, only distance and understanding. Camilla leaned closer. You really showed us. I shook my head. You showed me who I was. She blinked at that, not fully understanding, but trying. As the night went on, I moved through crowds, greeting CEOs, artists, designers, old friends. But the moment that stayed with me was seeing Camilla and Ethan watching me from across the room, not with jealousy, but with quiet acceptance. For once, I belonged completely to myself. At the gala, an older businesswoman approached me, Serena Calvi, one of the most respected leaders in the fashion world. Her hair was silver, her eyes sharp, but her smile warm. You handled your rise well, she said. Grace under pressure. I thanked her, but she shook her head. Don't thank me. Listen. We moved to a quiet corner of the hall. I know what it's like, she said. People mistook me for weak once, too. They only respected me when I became powerful. But power is not the prize. I tilted my head. Then what is? Legacy, she answered. Revenge fades, but legacy lasts beyond you. Her words sank deep. They hit a part of me that still carried old bruises. Serena placed her hand over mine. Don't waste your energy proving people wrong. Use your energy to lift people who never get a chance. I nodded slowly. She was right. I had spent years surviving insults, mocking, judgments. But now I had the power to lift, not crush, others. After she walked away, I looked around the gala hall. All the beauty I had built. All the people lifting glasses to new futures. I realized something soft and powerful. The best revenge I could ever create wasn't destroying the ones who hurt me. It was becoming someone they could never touch. Someone they could never pull down. Someone whose impact would outlive their cruelty. Inspired by Serena's words, I expanded my company missions the next month. I called Carla, gathered my team, and said, "We're starting something big." We created a scholarship program for young designers from working-class families. Students who were like I once was, quiet, talented, unsure, and underestimated. We partnered with schools, fashion brands, small tailoring shops. We gave money, tools, and mentors. Every scholarship carried my aunt's name, Maria Marin, the woman who raised me when life had broken apart. The launch event was simple but emotional. I stood on the small stage, photos of my aunt behind me, and said, "She taught me kindness before she taught me courage." Everything I am started in her tiny apartment. People clapped. Some cried. The first round of scholarship winners came forward, teens with bright ideas and shy smiles. I saw pieces of my younger self in each one. After the event, a girl approached me, holding a sketchbook. "Thank you," she whispered. "I've never met someone like me doing something big." I smiled. "You won't have to say that in the future. There will be more of us." That night, as I looked at my aunt's picture on the program cover, I felt something settle in my chest. A peace I had never known. The world had tried to break me once. Now I was building something no one could break. One afternoon, I walked past a small thrift store, the same one Camilla mocked me about months before. I went inside just to look, just to breathe old air filled with memories. The racks were filled with worn jackets, shoes with stories, dresses waiting for new lives. As I moved through the aisles, a young woman stood holding a wrinkled suit. She looked stressed, turning the tag over and over. "Do you need help?" I asked gently. She blushed. I have a job interview. But I don't think this fits right." She held the suit up. It was too big, too faded. Something tugged inside me. "Come with me," I said. We walked to the boutique next door. I bought her a clean, fitted suit with soft lines and a bright future sewn into the seams. When she tried it on, she looked at herself with new eyes. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You look familiar, like someone from the news." I smiled. "Maybe one day you'll know me. But for now, just know this, you belong in every room you walk into." She hugged me tightly. I walked out into the afternoon sun feeling full. Not from money, not from power, but from the simple act of giving someone the confidence I had once needed so badly. And it felt better than any victory over Camilla ever could. Even after everything, the world still found new ways to surprise me. A month after launching the scholarships, tabloids began buzzing with fresh rumors. This time, they weren't ugly, they were wild. Isabella seen with European prince. Heiress linked to philanthropic royalty. I laughed when I saw the headlines. It was true that I'd met Prince Matteo at a global charity council meeting. He was kind, humble, charming. But we had only talked, nothing more. Still, the world wanted a fairy tale. Reporters snapped pictures any time we were seen in the same city. Camilla watched from the sidelines, bitter, confused, almost jealous. She once mocked me for my thrift store dress. Now people whispered that I might marry royalty. The irony didn't escape me. Sometimes life had a sense of humor sharper than hers. One evening, at a small charity dinner, I saw Camilla across the room, watching me. She looked washed out, like reality had drained her shine. She whispered to someone beside her. She could actually become a princess. Her voice held disbelief. I didn't feel triumph, just a strange softness. I had never chased titles, only respect. The world had given me more than I ever asked for. As I left that dinner, Matteo walked beside me, asking about my scholarship plans, not my past. And that alone made me smile. I didn't know what our future would be. But I knew this, whatever happened next would be my choice, not the world's. Months passed before I saw Ethan again. We met by accident at a hotel lobby. He looked healthier, calmer, maybe even wiser. He walked up slowly, like he didn't want to disturb my peace. "Isabella," he said with a small smile, "you look well." "I am," I replied. We stepped aside so guests could pass. He shoved his hands into his pockets, searching for words. "I wanted to thank you," he said, "for giving me a chance to grow. The consulting job, it changed me." I nodded. "I'm glad you used it well." He swallowed. "I've been thinking a lot. About everything. You were always too good for us." I held his gaze gently. "No, Ethan. I wasn't too good. I just refused to let your family decide my worth." He blinked, emotions tightening his throat. "Do you ever regret leaving?" I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who stayed quiet at dinners, who accepted scraps of respect, who shrank herself to fit their world. Then I thought of the woman I had become. "No," I whispered. "Leaving was the first thing I ever did for myself." He nodded slowly, acceptance settling over him like warm shadow. As he turned to leave, he said, "Thank you for teaching me what real strength looks like." I watched him walk away, feeling no pain, no longing. Just closure. Clean, complete closure. The invitation arrived in a gold envelope, an international award ceremony honoring leaders in ethical business. I sat in the front row as my name was called, applause filling the hall like soft thunder. When I stepped onto the stage, I felt the weight of every moment that had led me here, the humiliation, the whispers, the cruel jokes, the quiet waiting, the rising. I held the award and looked out at the sea of faces. Cameras flashed. Lights glowed. But the room was silent, waiting for my words. I grew up in two worlds, I began. One simple. One powerful. I learned early that people think class is something you can buy. But real class is something you show. A pause. The air thickened. True class isn't worn, I continued, voice steady. It's shown in how we treat those we believe are beneath us. The audience rose to its feet. The applause was warm, swelling, real. As I stepped off the stage, Serena Calvi hugged me tightly. "Now," she whispered, "you're building legacy." Later, journalists rushed me, asking questions about the future. I answered with calm certainty. I plan to grow, lift others, and build with integrity. Everything else will follow. And for the first time, I believed it fully. My life was no longer shaped by the cruelty of others, but by the strength I had found inside myself. Months later, I received a message from Camilla. It was short and shaky. "Can we talk? Please." I agreed, partly out of curiosity, partly out of closure. We met at a small tea shop, far from the glittering world she once worshipped. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. No designer purse. No perfect hair. Just a quiet, humbled woman wearing a simple blouse. She sat down slowly. "I opened a boutique," she said. "Small. Local. I'm learning to work, really work." I nodded. "That's good." She swallowed hard. I wanted to say something I should have said years ago. Her voice trembled. "I'm sorry. For everything. I thought class meant money. I thought respect was something you forced. I was wrong." I watched her for a long moment. "Yes," I said gently. "You were." Tears filled her eyes. "Can you ever forgive me?" I sipped my tea, thinking. "Forgiveness isn't a gift," I said softly. "It's a door. And you've earned the right to knock on it." She breathed shakily. "Does that mean—" "I forgive you," I said. "But I don't forget. Forgetting is how we repeat mistakes." She nodded slowly, understanding fully. For the first time, she wasn't a villain. She was a person, flawed, learning, growing. And a piece of me, the piece that had once been hurt by her, finally exhaled. One quiet evening, I walked through a grand hall preparing for another charity event. My steps echoed softly across the marble floor. Workers arranged flowers. Lights warmed the room. As I watched everything come together, I felt the story of my life settling into a shape I finally understood. I thought of the girl I used to be, the one Camilla dismissed, the one high society overlooked, the one people laughed at for wearing thrift store dresses. And I thought of the woman I had become, the leader, the builder, the protector, the name spoken with respect. I leaned against the balcony railing and let the warm air wrap around me. A soft voice inside me whispered the truth I had learned through every chapter of my life. They said I wasn't classy enough. Maybe they were right. Because real class doesn't need validation. Real class doesn't beg for a seat at the table. Real class doesn't shout, or brag, or fight to be seen. Real class walks quietly and owns the room. I straightened, adjusted my gown, and walked back into the hall, this time not as the girl they tried to break, but as the woman I chose to become. Fade to black. If you love this story and want more deep, true revenge tales filled with twists, hit subscribe and never miss the next one. Thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts in the comments.